Good evening. I'd like to call to order this business meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District Governing Board. Today is Tuesday, June 9th, and it is 6 p.m. Item 1.2, the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everybody please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.3, roll call. Members of the board that are present are Mr. Fortney and Mr. Moore. Member Walker is at a business meeting and not able to attend. And Member Ulmer, unfortunately, is dealing with the loss of a close family member and is not able to be here. And our thoughts and prayers go out to her. Members of the cabinet that are here are Dr. Hendrickson, Dr. Pletnick, and Dr. Jensen. Item 1.4, formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any changes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item 1.5, President's Report. Well, the end of the school year is probably the best time of the year because all of the really cool things happen. I had the opportunity to be present at Horseshoe Trail's Kindy 500, and it was a very cool event to see those kindergartners cross the finish line and I guess promote it up to first grade. Sonoran Trails promotion, and of course Cactus Shadows graduation. All of these are such great things for our students, and it's a great way to honor them. Also, I would like to publicly extend my appreciation, thanks, kudos, attaboys, whatever you want to call it, to Mr. Owsley. He had sent out such a touching and wonderful letter about his involvement with Cave Creek. And Jill, did that go to the entire Cave Creek community or just Black Mountain?
It was linked in.
Okay. All right. So hopefully everybody has read it. If not, please read it. And with that, I will defer to Jeff. Do you have anything?
Just that I was able, because of some conflicts, miss the high school graduation for the first time ever. That kind of stunk, but I had to be at my school's graduation that same day. But I did make it to the Sonoran Trails graduation promotion, so that was great. And that's it.
Dan?
Thanks. May wrapped up with 3 events that deserve to be talked about. The Kindy 500, 8th grade promotion, high school graduation. Watching kindergartens race across the Horseshoe Trail courtyard with just pure joy was fun to watch. Shaking students' hands at the 8th grade promotion as they venture on to high school. Seeing seniors walk across the stage with such pride and accomplishment as their families look on from the crowd. Those moments are really the reward of being a board member. And also the reminder that students must come first in every decision made from these seats. That is and should always be our true north. As with that, I want to address a couple things from the previous board meeting. April vote regarding the assistant superintendent position is one of them. The full context matters here. All 5 board members had previously agreed that one position needed to be eliminated. That decision was not acted on, and it was left to the board to carry out. The CCUSD attorney crafted the appropriate and legal language, the vote was held, and the outcome was the outcome. Putting an asterisk on this that was brought up at the last board meeting, I find challenging because the process was done legally and ethically, and the fact that there's a gray cloud on it now is kind of concerning to me, especially given everything that took place over several meetings. But that situation reflects a broader theme that these past few months have made impossible to ignore, and that theme is choice. This has been one of the most challenging years as a parent in this district. There were multiple moments where my daughters, along with other students, were not at the forefront of the decisioning. That is hard to say out loud, but it's honest. And while it would be easy to pull my kids and walk away, the choice is to stay, to continue to believe in and fight for this district. That choice means something to me. Quitting is not an option, even when it can appear the easy one. What makes that choice harder and what creates the biggest divide in this community is a phrase that seems to exist in some corners of this culture. The parents are the problem. It has been said, and it has been said to me directly. To those who believe it, one question. If the parents are the problem, have you ever considered that you might be the reason? Now, calling out problems is the easy part. The harder choice is deciding that what comes next. And for this community, that choice is simple. CCUSD can be the district that families and teachers choose. That belief has not wavered for me. Every school, public or private, carries its own challenges. The grass isn't always greener. What makes this district different is that it's small, rooted, and community-driven. That is not a weakness. That is an advantage. The ability to move fast, to adapt, and to change is sitting right in front of us. Matt Owsley, principal of Black Mountain, recently sent a message to the community that was positive, forward-looking, and exactly the tone the district needs more of. That is the direction we are heading. To the parents, the staff, and the community members who have chosen to stay and continue investing in CCUSD through a genuinely difficult time, thank you. That choice doesn't go unnoticed. This district does not move forward alone. It moves forward together through communication, through collaboration, and through a shared belief that the best days of CCUSD are still ahead. Let's close this chapter. Let's put our focus on a renewed outlook on lifting this district up. That's my update. Thank you.
Okay. I do want to mention that Dr. Regan is connected by phone, so if you hear a voice from beyond, that's who's with us. Item 2.1, the proposed budget presentation. Dr. Pletnick.
President Greer, members of the governing board, tonight we're going to do our fiscal year 27 budget proposal. Now, budget requirements according to Arizona statute dictates that we must propose a budget no later than July 5th. And then the adopted budget must be the same as the proposed budget. And that after this, the budget will be published by the Arizona Department of Education on their website for at least 10 days. And the governing board will hold a public hearing June 23rd at the next board meeting for adoption of that budget. And that the budget will have to be adopted prior to July 15th by statute. So a few reminders, and I like to go over the vocabulary before going over any budget, any financial piece that we do. And the first is that the budget just sets the capacity limits. It's not how much we're spending, but it's how much we can spend. And as a reminder, this year, if you remember to the last board meeting with a revision, it was just about $30 million, just over $30 million for our budget capacity that I set it on the revision. But as of right now, we're on pace, as we've been saying, for somewhere about 28.9 million. Again, as long as there are no extra expenditures that we see for upcoming. So you'll notice that even though it's set at 30 as the capacity, the most, we are not going to spend that much. So just because you have the capacity does not mean you have to spend it. And again, when you don't spend up to your capacity, that's where we get our carry forward from. And again, the actual expenditures will be reported out in the annual financial report that is filed in October. That is when we're going to find out how much we actually spent, how much our true carry forward is, will come out in November, if you remember the timeline that I showed last week. Now, the proposed budget can be revised in September, December, and May. This year, we did all 3 of them. Next year, you will at least have to do September because these are provisional, because the state has not passed the budget. So there'll be a September revision and definitely a May revision as well. Student funding is determined in the FY27 school year enrollment. So that's for our M&O. And remember, capital is based upon the previous year's enrollment. Now, the enrollment, and I'm going to say this multiple times tonight, is going to need to be revised as you go along. You'll notice the enrollment that I'm going to project. I'm going to go on the high side, and I'll explain that later, why we're projecting on the higher side of enrollment, just simply because of our situation where we are below the qualifying tax rate, and we are totally funded by local taxpayers rather than receiving any kind of state aid. But I'll go into detail on that. Budget terms and reminders. If you hear me say ADM, that's our average daily membership. That's our student count. So it's based upon that 100-day count, which means if the students here are 50 out of 100 days, we get 50% funding for it. If they're 100 out of 100 enrolled with us, then we get full funding for those students. Weighted ADM is a state formula. So that's the formula used to calculate truly how much we receive per student. Now, with that, we do get extra weighting for higher grade levels as well as for special education students. And remember, funding is done in different buckets. Just because we have money in one bucket doesn't mean we can fill another bucket with that money. That's all guided by the USFR, or the Uniform System of Financial Records. And again, I have examples of buckets: M&O, DAA, which is District Additional Assistance or Capital, classroom site funds. And remember, there's also federal funds involved, so those are grant funds typically. So you're looking at like our Title I, Title II funds, our IDEA, which is our special education grants as well. And I'm just going to skip really quickly through this, but there is a requirement that we have to spend so much local money before we do receive that federal money. So there's always this maintenance of effort that is required. And the other key piece to remember is budget controlled versus cash controlled funds. Remember, budget controls funds are set by the state by a formula or legislative appropriations. So the district can only spend those dollars based upon that formula. We're talking that, and you hear me often say the cash side of the house versus the other side. And when we rent our facilities, rent our fields, for example, that's cash revenue that we get that we have freedom to spend. But budget controlled, where there's a formula associated, such as our classroom site funds, that's going to come with restrictions on what you can spend the money on. Also, the one thing to keep in mind is we have to have the cash available with the state treasurer. So what that means is, as we set this budget, we're going to send that to the Maricopa County Superintendent's office. They're going to do our next year's tax rate for us. So what they'll do is there's a formula sheet where we estimate it, but they calculate our final tax rate, and that is what our taxpayers are taxed at. That money, when taxes are collected, it actually is cash in the bank for us, where when we pay our bills, that's the cash we use. Okay, and one other thing with the must have the cash available is when we set this tax rate, if we set the tax rate too low and we only collect, and I'm just going to use fictitious numbers, we just collect $24 million. But it ends up that our enrollment's higher and we needed $25 million to spend for our budget that year. We're short on cash. We don't have the cash available to actually use. So that's why we have to be very, very careful in setting our tax rate. One of the biggest pieces with that tax rate is, again, there's a qualifying tax rate, that minimum level. Our property values are so high and our enrollment is low where we don't meet that minimum tax rate. So we are totally funded by the local taxpayer base, where those districts who can't collect enough tax funds, they receive what's called state aid. So with their projections, if they're a little bit off, state aid can help fill that, where we are totally locally funded. So we have to make sure our projections cover that cash need when we set our tax rate. So it's especially important that we're not too low, because we're not going to collect enough cash to pay the bills. Okay, so budget factors. If we look at where we were and where we're projecting to be, this is this slide. So you can see we're expecting, again, an enrollment, a decline in enrollment. You can see also, though, that the base level funding from the state went from $5,013 in FY25 to we're at $5,215.53 in FY27. Now that is a 2% increase from FY26. So your increase it can be inflation or 2%, and they're choosing to do the 2%, which is well below inflation. You can also see the assessed values that are going up in our district. And you can see the projected tax rate is also going to be dropping again this year. Again, higher property values, less students, which is going to be a lower tax rate. Again, I covered this, the state equalization. Again, we have to make sure we get enough cash in by setting that tax rate. And again, as a result, when I go over what our M&O capacity is, I didn't take the lowest enrollment projection. I didn't take a full rollover projection. I kind of had to find the middle of the sweet spot. So that's something as we look at the budget, we look at spending moving forward, you're going to have to be very, very careful with. Because you're going to have to really look at, when the kids get here in August, how many kids and what are, as they say, butts in the seats, how many we have, because that September revision is going to be very, very, very important. And that's why I am actually absolutely encouraging you to be very cautious on your expenditures moving forward. If you look at the high side, which we'll cover, a full rollover will get a revenue control limit of about $26 million. The low projections come all the way down to about 24.2 million. So that's a pretty wide range. So it's really going to depend upon what students show up for that enrollment. And so as we did put in the projections and our calculations for our M&O, which is also that RCL revenue control limit, you can see in FY25 that it was $28.4 million we received from the state for our students. FY26 this year it was $26.3 million, and next year we're putting it just down about $1 million at $25.3. But again, here I'm going to be cautious. When you look at our budget and we set the capacity in M&O, the capacity is set around $27 million. That does not mean you need to spend to your capacity. It also, as students show up, if that 25.3, less students show up than funds that 25.3 million, that may drop to 24.8 million. So that's $500,000 that you have to be careful with. So that's why moving forward in your expenditures, moving forward in hiring, please be very, very, very cautious as we approach that August point. So you can see we're looking at moving only $1 million of capital over to M&O again. So with the carry forward and that $1 million moving over, that's about $29.1 million in total capacity. That is what the district has. Now remember, we're hoping that our expenditures are below that this year. Okay, so even if you spent exactly what you spent this year, we should still be below that. But again, remember that 25.3, if less students show up, that number is going to have to be revised down. So that is why I'm saying please be very, very cautious. You also can see, because we have less students, that DAA, that capital, we're only receiving $1.986 million in this year. You can see it's been well above $2 million, but again, based upon this year's student count, we're expecting somewhere just under $2 million. That does, again, it keeps our capacity because we continue. Last year we kept nearly $1 million in capital. This year we're budgeting to keep $1 million in capital. That means we do have that capacity and that carry forward. You're going to see projects tonight, especially with the fuel tank at transportation, that's going to eat a lot of that capital up. But again, as long as we are continuing to keep money in that capital and not moving all of that capital over, you can continue to grow that capital, which again, I encourage that balance between M&O and capital. There are needs that are coming up. When I budgeted this year, we put about half the cost of that fuel tank in, and next year the other half, plus you also have a roof replacement coming. So there are capital expenditures that are coming down the road and coming down the road very, very quickly. And as you can see, we're pretty steady within our classroom site fund on that bottom. Grant-wise, and I'll warn you, this can get revised, but the initial grants, the amount of our grants is listed above. So you can see about $275,000 in title, just under $800,000 in our IDA, and again, $39,000 in our CTE. Perkins federal grant, in our state grant, just under $14,000. Again, these are the initial allocations we received. Those could be slightly adjusted, but we are expecting a decrease in all of those grants again. Oh, and the other point to make, we were also awarded the SRO grants again for our SROs at our middle and high school. So the next step is the publication of the hearing notice and then the adoption on June 23rd for the adopted budget. Oops. And are there any questions?
Any questions? Yeah, I really. Okay, then. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Then item 2.2, our monthly financial update. Dr. Pletnick.
All right, back again. All right, President Greer, members of the governing board, here's our monthly financial update presentation, which, surprise, surprise, is enrollment again on this. So we're going to be pretty steady. We're at the end of school, the end of the last quarter, so we're not going to see a whole lot of movement. What we're looking at is total enrollment here was 3378. The prior month was 3380. On this, again, you can see where we are compared to last year, which again isn't much movement from the last board report. There were a couple corrections from the last report that were missing that we tracked down. So that's why you see the asterisks. And so when we're going, wait, it's 2, why are there 5 listed there? The last 2 were corrections from the previous report. But again, very minimal movement. Nothing new to really report on that end. Any questions on the enrollment?
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you. Item 3, action consent. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item 4.1, call to the public. Do we have any? Okay, then we can move right along. There is no old business. Item 6.1, proposed budget for 2026-27. Dr. Pletnick, you're up again.
All right. President Greer, the administration recommends that the governing board approve the proposed budget for the 2026-2027 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Okay, then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item 6.2, approval of fuel tank purchase. Dr. Pletnick.
Administration recommends that the governing board approve the purchase and installation of the fuel tank at the transportation yard.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
One question, once this is approved, when are they going to start?
Once this is signed off and approved, I'll get the contract over to Ms. Suter at Transportation. We'll contact the company, and we'll get the ball rolling. Now, there is going to be quite a few weeks of lead time because we are moving to a above-ground tank, so that has to be manufactured. So that could take up to 20 weeks lead time in manufacturing right now. We're hoping that with the timing in June, that we would be completed somewhere over winter break would be a good timeline. Removal of the tank from the ground, what we're going to have to see is what that reveals in respect to at some point when they pull it out, we have to see if there's any additional work that needs to be done to the ground underneath.
Okay. All right.
Do we have any guesstimations on that? Or is it just going to be in the air and we deal with it when it comes?
I would not want to take a guess at what it could be. What I can tell you is the nice part is if there is any problem, we do, through the trust, have that insured, so that can certainly help. We're also dealing with environmental companies. We're working closely with the Arizona Department of Environment. So we're hoping all goes well, but if there is any need, we do certainly have the services ready.
And then we're currently renting a tank now, right?
Correct. We're currently renting a temporary tank we're going to have to drain the old tank and then begin that process of removal. So it's going to keep us while the new above ground tanks are being installed. It's going to keep us afloat. It's going to keep our buses and our vans running on that temporary tank.
So if I understood right, some of the removal of the in-ground tank is covered by the trust?
Well, no, if there's any kind of leakage,
Okay.
any kind of environmental incident, we do have coverage for that.
Okay, so any of the purchase of all of this and replacement, that's not covered by the trust?
No,
Or the SFD or B or which one were you? Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 6.3, motion to reinstate the Dean of Students position at Cactus.
We missed one.
Which one?
6.8. The
I
water
said-
line.
Which one?
The procurement,
One more by me.
the Fine Arts Center.
You missed it on my paper.
Oh.
All right, so 6.3, approval of emergency procurement to repair water line at Fine Arts Building, presented by Dr. Pletnick.
President Greer, administration recommends that the governing board approve the water line repair at the Fine Arts Building for Danson Construction LLC in the amount of $11,653.
So moved.
Second,
Any questions?
a little context, like what?
So as actually it was Miss Serino notified us going to a baseball game, there was bubbling happening through cracks in the parking lot, and water was seeping out at a very good pace where it was creating a flow of the wash. Thank you. Wash is what I was looking for.
So this is in the parking lot.
In the parking lot, yes. And so what we discovered is there was a break in a pipe underground, so that had to be dug up. Pipe had to be repaired. Then we had to fill it and then repave it. So essentially like a water main break.
Nice. Okay. Any other-
And as our buildings are aging, we are seeing repairs more and more that are going to come in place. So preventive maintenance, as much as we possibly can, is going to be vital.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Now, to, now it's 6.4. Motion to reinstate the Dean of Students position at Cactus Shadows. Dr. Hendrickson.
President Greer, members of the board, administration recommends the reinstatement of the Dean of Students position at Cactus Shadows High School as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Dr. Regan,
Yes.
would you like to chime in on the dean position that we're talking about at Cactus Shadows?
Sure. Thank you. We'd like to have the Dean of Students position posted. Currently, right now, we have a new principal assigned that's over at Cactus Shadows, Heather Isom, and she is, with Rob Gilmore, is doing assistant principal interviews for the assistant principal vacancy that they have. Learning about their vacancy and the restructuring of their administrative team, they had a reduction of an assistant principal position. And as looking at the scope of their supervision and job responsibilities, we felt it strongly that we would need an extra member of the team. We want to look at it as a dean of students, which is it would be a teacher with a master's degree, ideally in administration, on a teaching contract with extra days per diem to support the administrators and her cabinet, and primarily to address discipline issues and student services and anything else directed by the principal. It would be on a teacher contract.
Okay. Any questions?
Well, it just seems like we're just still kind of spinning our wheels here. So this is something that the board agreed on that we don't need, and now we're saying that we do need it. When I think that if we're going to reinstate anything, it would be better off with some other things. So that's just my opinion, though. So that's all I got to say for it.
So is the org going to be principal, 2 APs, and a dean of students?
Did you hear that?
You know what? It's echoing, so I can't hear. Can you repeat it, Janet?
He asked if the makeup of the administration at Cactus Shadows is going to be the principal, you said 2 APs?
2 APs and 1 dean of students?
2 APs and 1 dean. Is that what you're envisioning?
For this current school year, that's what we're moving forward on. I think when we look at the responsibilities of each assistant principal and the scope of their job every day to day-to-day business, we've got to decide on how we best align these positions. And so I don't have an exact answer until I can meet with them and have some discussions, but we've had some preliminary discussions. Nothing's been decided. What the intention is how are we going to best serve kids at Cactus Shadows, and working with that leadership team. So right now we know we need an FTE, and with the Dean of Students being previously discussed as a recommendation, we are asking the board to approve that so we can move forward and look at the rest of the positions.
Okay.
And just sole responsibility and function is just discipline the students?
Are you envisioning the dean to be just primarily focused on discipline, or are you envisioning that position to have a broader scope?
That's a discussion that Rob and Heather and I will have, but primarily the job description for a Dean of Students, first and foremost, would be managing the discipline, which would require if there are suspensions or expulsions. But we've got a lot of responsibilities, too, that our assistant principals do with 504s, IEP management with the special education teachers. So there's going to be greater discussion of what that will look like for the Dean of Students position and who we get in that position and what qualifications they have.
Okay.
Can I make a crazy motion?
Sure.
Can I motion to table till the vote on the 23rd when we approve budget so that that can be walked through with Ryan to make sure that we're aligned and we're not going backwards?
Did you hear that?
No, I can't hear. I can only hear you.
Dan is requesting that we table this until June 23rd. And at that point, we, you can work with the appropriate folks on how the position would align, and Ryan will be able to give us numbers as far as how it would fit into the budget. Would you be
Okay.
good with tabling that?
Yes.
Okay.
And President Greer, just as a reminder, the adopted and the proposed, they can't be different, so it will have to, okay. But
Okay.
again, if there's any changes, it would have to be done. It could be done in a revision in September. Again, it was not in my budget proposal. So I based budget proposal off of what cuts were brought last month. There is, of course, a little bit of wiggle room. I always build it, like I said, 27 million in capacity versus what I'm expecting the RCL to be. Again, we wanted to try to match RCL plus $1 million to where we want to spend. But again, as we're moving forward, I am absolutely, I'm going to reiterate this numerous times. As positions are being added, as people are being hired, please ensure we look at what salary schedules were. Please ensure we look at what positions were on that M&O list that was intended to cut to bring that $3 million. Because as we covered a few months ago, you're going to eat carry forward every time you make one of these decisions, potentially. And again, once we see this enrollment data, that's going to reveal a whole lot more of, do we have to move off that $25.3 million number? So decisions moving forward, I would move in a very conservative manner. Again, I would also, number one thing is we always want to do what's best for kids. But remember, when we add something, that means somewhere else you're either in carry forward or we're going to have to take it away from another area. So whoever's my replacement, I will reiterate that with them and how this budget was created and how this budget was planned. But please be very careful.
That's why I'm making that motion to give it a little bit of.
Okay. So there's an amended motion to table.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're tabled. Item 7, upcoming events, we have none. Item 8, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it's 6:38. We are adjourned.